Right, well, Roger and I are just clearing up a bit from last week's efforts. And of course, the reason we're doing it is to develop that building and turn it into a perfect weekender. Whoops, something just fell out the fire there. That's the next task. God, blimey, look at this. Old bits of stainless steel, don't they last through the fire? Anyway, we're just waiting for Richard to turn up with the sawmill, and then we'll be milling up that timber to start making stuff to build the building with.
Now, with any luck, what is at present a derelict 19th century cricket pavilion should look like this in a few months, the perfect weekend retreat.
Come on, Will, come on. Okay, Rich. Yeah, that'll do. Whoa, perfect.
Gently does it. The hydraulic elbows on the back are a bit vulnerable to breaking off.
Richard's an old friend of mine, and frankly, without his mobile milling machine, this whole project just wouldn't get off the ground. Obviously, Richard needs to know what to cut, so Simon the carpenter, who drew up the original plans, has turned up with a cutting list. Now, the list details the dimensions of the substantial timber frame that's going to straddle the building and support the new extended roof.
7, yes.
And jowled to 10 inches.
It's all very well having a cutting list, but where do you get the timber from? You know, you want some 8x4s and 6x3s and all these different lengths. Now, you look at that one, it looks pretty solid to you, but if you step back here, you'll see that it's actually suffering some severe ring shake. Now, what's ring shake, you may be wondering? Ring shake is cylindrical cracking, particularly common to chestnut. And just over here, I've got a very good example of it. Where are we? That butt there has got serious ring shake. Normally doesn't run up the whole length of the tree, so you can take a bit off. But therein lies the rub. We're going to have to select the decent timber that's worth milling. It's not worth milling at all, because it'll just fall to bits. So I'm going to use these saws and cross-cut it into the right lengths, and then we'll roll them up on the mill, and Richard's going to rip it with his bandsaw. Exciting stuff, ripping stuff, in fact.
2.7 comes just to this knot, so what's the shake like up there?
Well, look, I'll tell you what, I'll give it a cut through this side of the knot.
Have a look.
Give you a bit of spare, and see how it looks.
Okay.
All right, and what about that fellow there? I'll take him off at that knot as well, which is a bit of a kick there, isn't there?
Yeah, it's quite a pronounced bend.
Yeah, and then the same further up. I'll trim it up. I have a suspicion there might be some good sort of heartwood in that. I know there's a bit of shake, but you never know. Worth a look. He's terrible at rejecting timber. Now, Richard didn't reckon we'll get anything out of this, but look at that. Centre's what, 10.5? I reckon we'll get a quality 8x8 out of that, with a bit of a waney edge on the timber, but I don't think that matters. Let's see. See, the trouble with logs is they're always thicker one end than the other. And being thicker, of course, it has a bigger circumference. So as you roll it, it rolls further. So as you watch, this log, we hope, will roll round the corner and end up on the hydraulic lift.
We don't want to roll it too fast.
So Richard's going to look very nervously
at my sawmill
while I slowly lower it down the slope. He's worried because it's his hydraulic lift. Hey, there's a Yorkie. That's very nice, just where we wanted it.
Right. Okay.
Okay, we're going to get this log up on the deck now. To do so, Richard has to start this flat twin air-cooled engine over there, which not only runs the mill, but also runs the hydraulics. So if you'd like to give it the gun, Richard.
Okay.
And so we'll start that, make a bit of a noise. You'll hear it, I bet. Lovely. Okay, once the hydraulics are up and running, this hydraulic ram will lift the log onto the deck. And hopefully it'll run across and hit the stops and stop. If not, who knows? There we go. Bit of shake in there, you can see. Right. There we go.
So I think I'll take the first cut around about there.
Okay. Is she clean enough? If you get a lot of mud on the logs, you've got to watch out because the mud gets drawn into the cut. That's why Richard's giving it a bit of a wire brush just to clean it up. Get any solids off it. Sometimes, of course, you use an axe for that job. Ah, like now. I'm just going to stand over here if that's okay. Nothing against Richard, I'm sure he's very good at it. I know he is. But he doesn't like me a lot.
It never fails to amaze me the quality of timber you can get from trees that have been down for ages. Do you know, we're still able to find oak and chestnut that have been down for decades. The outside's totally shoddy, the inside solid as a rock.
Go on then.
I'll put the arms down, mate.
Sure. With nasty jagged jaws that turns everything over. It's really opened up there, look.
Yeah.
There is some shake in this one, and it is causing some concern, but it's already up here, so we're going to carry on with it for the moment. I always find it rather mesmerising watching this process.
There you are, in a twinkling of an eye, Richard has converted what was a fairly scruffy old log into these beautiful 6x4s. And bizarrely, the crack, the shake that was running through the bottom there that made it look a bit unsound, has disappeared almost. The reason is the tension's come out as he's cut through and the cracks have shut up. It's a sole plate anyway, so it's not really that critical. It's only going to be under compression, so the cracking's hardly that significant. But here we are, and we're going to get these and stack them up. Righto, Richard, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Bends in ease. Well, this river's the Eden, and it flows down here, joins the Medway, on through Penshurst, Tunbridge, and the Weald. Beautiful stretch of river. So why are we here? There's tons of work to be done up on the ridge where Treetops is, and here we are in the bottom of the valley. There is a reason. I'll show you what it is. Some of you may be wondering if I really have the build quality that counts. Well, come and see this. This is one I prepared earlier. It's just up these steps. Do be careful, they're a little bit rickety, and the handrail's not all that it once was. Well, here you see Grove Cottage. It is the modern equivalent of a Wealden Hall house. Why Wealden Hall? Well, we're in the Weald of Kent, and they were constructed as halls. Big tall things, smoke holes in the roof, fire in the centre. That's it, everyone covered in soot. Before I built this, there was a house on the site. It was a hall house, an original Wealden Hall house. Unfortunately, 700 years old, even old bits of oak don't last that long. And frankly, it'll just fall into bits. I've tried to build it as true to the original as I possibly could, given modern standards of living. We don't want to live in the dark, and we do want glass in our windows, etc. So here in our typical Wealden Hall house, we have your Kent braces, 3 of them. And you can see they've got a Roman numeral carved into the face. I think the chippy did that more for the tourist than for his own guidance. Nice oak doors, a big jowled post with a big jowl on that side, and then a knee bracket to hold the jetted upper floor. And this is where you'd have gone eavesdropping, because your eaves are out there and the water line's way over there, and you could stand here in the dry, listening to conversations inside. You can see this end I've worked with weatherboard, not oak framing. Well, weatherboard is quite typical of Kent, so I don't have a problem with that, and it was an extension anyway to the original building. But I've used a few little tricks, and one of them is to lay back this wall so it doesn't stand vertically. It slightly leans into the main building. It makes it look like it's been here for a few centuries. And bits of it have. Around the door, roses. Now, what could be more typical of an English cottage? And if you want to see what's inside, you better stick around.
At the top of the hill is Treetops, the old cricket pavilion we're renovating using materials from the woods. And at the bottom is Grove Cottage, my last building project.
So before we go back up to Treetops and building our weekend retreat, I thought I'd show off this little effort I've done with Grove Cottage. You'll see the chestnut ceiling, which I think works fine. I mean, there's a bit of oak in between, but mainly chestnut. Same with this staircase. Oak stringer, but chestnut treads. Just logs chopped up. See the end grain there? Beautiful. You could probably count the rings, work out how old it was. The doors we made ourselves, this is a sort of bur oak veneer in a solid oak frame, and I think that came out really rather well. Well, is it the lounge, is it the living room? Who knows? Wonderful old beam, it's probably 700 years old. Again, dendrochronology is what's required to test that. And here's the hallway, and frankly, my personal indulgence, but I rather like it. Look at the height of that. Isn't that fun? Again, the quartered log affair on simple stringers, but drill out the pegs, it all comes to bits, and I've allowed enough space to get a beautiful big wheelchair lift in there. Not my bed, I have to tell you, some friends are staying. A waterbed. That's unusual these days, isn't it? But very comfortable. This is mine though. Look at that lovely curved brace. Down 3 or 4 treads, you will spot these panels. Now these panels actually lift out. You can see that bit of timber slightly loose. They lift out. You can actually get a double bed, grand piano, whatever you like, from the living room straight into that bedroom. This is the bathroom. I call this the bathroom with a view. And it has got a view, a cracking view it is. Hopefully we'll create a better one at Treetops. Well, before we go back up the woods, we're just going to stop off for a minute and pick up a tent here to protect our poor little chippies from the inclement weather. Hope the mice haven't eaten it. Here's the tent. There's an old tractor exhaust. And there's a nice tent peg. Probably original from Burma, 42 or something like that.
At the top of the hill, the team has started to assemble.
Ah, it's a delightful little thing in green. There we are.
1920.
Yeah, curly bits on top, straight bits on the bottom, and one big post in the middle.
You know how it works.
Is it a statement or a question?
Question.
And this is an answer. No, but I've seen it done.
This is Harry, who's a local builder, and he's born and bred in these parts. And like Simon, he specialises in timber frame construction.
Glad we're not doing it under machine gun fire.
Look at this. A bunch of moderately intelligent individuals who are used to putting up buildings, and we're struggling to put up a flipping tent.
You haven't seen me working yet. There are subdivisions of this tent, believe it or not, and it actually divides up into 4 little rooms. So a chap told me he used to use them for tiger hunting.
That may not be necessary now.
And there was a room for the parents, the children, a living room, and a kitchen and servants' room. So that'll be handy.
I've known these guys for years, and their work is excellent. In fact, they did Grove Cottage, my house down the hill. Although I'm beginning to worry about Harry, you know. Oi, what are you doing up that tree?
You know what this means? It means it's impossible to take the thing down now. Should we go and have a look at the timber?
Yeah. What we got?
Tell us the worst. I find it's tricky when you're filming. There's always someone looking over your shoulder.
Well, as you can see, Rich has been busy milling, but we've already hit a problem. He's been through all the logs from the pile that was here, and we still haven't got nearly enough timber.
Yeah, we've certainly got enough to keep us going for the minute, but we'll need him back. Sort of
Yeah,
early
sure.
next week,
I'll get him
I
back
thought.
as soon as I possibly can, but you know how busy he is.
Right.
Any issues on the jointing or how it's going to be put together?
Do you want to have a quick look through the...
Sure.
That's a section diagram, and it's basically going to be a
Yeah.
repetition of that, which is a jowl at each end held with a dovetail and a tenon.
Right.
Standard sort of traditional jowl.
And it's sort of forming a kind of bridge over the existing building. So the existing building remains as it is.
Yeah, this shaded bit here is the existing building, so
Yeah.
that's
Completely separate issue to our building,
Quite.
structurally
Yeah.
wise.
there's no
Well, there
structural.
isn't a lot of structure to the existing building, let's be frank.
And bar the fact that there's one extra post, that's what the end
Yeah.
result's going to look like.
This shows the rear of the building. The old roof needs completely replacing. The new roof, with its deck and expanded eaves, will provide sheltered verandas, front and rear.
So, I mean, given what you've got to work with, what do you reckon you're going to kick off?
Well, we'll start with obviously making all the curved braces because we've got all of that, and we'll start with whatever jowls we've got there to make, and then we've got, I think, a couple
Whatever
of
we've got
frames
with
worth
plates,
of
huh?
beams, which obviously all need scarving together.
Right.
So there's a fair bit of work.
Okay. So in the next couple of days we can be putting together a couple of frames that we could sort of try and place.
Possibly, yeah. Depends on the timber.
We've only
Yeah.
got 2 jowl posts, so that's only 1 frame.
Okay. But on the other hand, we can get on with the footings.
Yep,
And
that's not us personally though, is it?
no, sure. I think, given what we were talking about earlier, we'll get Roger in with his machine and just rip out a footing and cast it. So that'll be a bit of fun with concrete.
Now, the sheer weight of the frame that we're going to build, and the fact it'll be carrying the load of the new roof, means that we do need to put in new concrete footings to support it. So, cue Roger and his digger.
I have a drawing of a floor. We're doing the roof at the same time. As you can see here, there's considerable made up ground. But the great thing is we've got below that level into subsoil, so we're fairly sure of a solid footing, you know, in a mass of material which, although there's a bit of clay in it, there is a bit of stone as well. It does bind quite well, you see.
Given the amount of concrete we're going to need, we're getting it delivered. And this is the first of 3 loads. Just a few instructions, though, to ensure the driver doesn't take out all the trees on his way in.
Watch out for the tree. I said to him, go wide onto the grass and you can avoid the branches. Does he? No.
Don't look at me. I've got the answer.
Probably not the easiest place in the world to deliver concrete, admittedly. And not helped by piles of building materials lying around.
It's always a slight panic with these things. Everyone seems to be sleepwalking somehow. I don't know what it's dreaming, you know. It's about to arrive. We'll get that stuff out of the way and clear it a bit. But after the first, it's usually a cinch. Oh look, he's got a little floral motif on the top there. Isn't that charming? I believe it's hornbeam. Ah, you see this? We've got little metal rods in here, a bit of reinforcing, hold the whole thing together. They've been hammered into the substrate, so they're pretty tough stuff. They'll just help to pin it together. The great thing is the coefficient of expansion of steel is the same as concrete. Never believe it, would you? Hence, it doesn't crack when it all gets hot and cold. It is the reason that reinforcing concrete works. I must get on, actually. Excuse me.
Down 20 mil! Okay.
I'm not optimistic we're going to have enough to our original levels, but we can get around it. Not a big problem. It always gets a bit stressful doing this. Dashing about, big kit around. Next!
Well, I'm a little worried. We've cut the footings a bit too deep and a little bit too wide, which happens. And, you know, it's not exactly a science, it's more of an art working out how much concrete you need. But here we go, and Roger's going to pour it in, and I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash and it won't be too bad, but, you know, tempers can get slightly short when you're working hard and it's hot. You see, genuine sweat. And he's going to run over some of the timber up there, which hasn't pleased too many of the chippies. But hey-ho, we'll win through, don't you worry. And they'll all end up in the pub with a smiley face and slightly inebriated, I guess. I sincerely hope so, anyway.
In theory, Roger dug down to the hard ground. But as you can see, it isn't. This is what our footings are bearing on.
And just to make things a little more interesting, the weather is taking a turn for the worse.
The great thing about concreting is, it doesn't matter if it rains. It just cools you down. We could take that in our stride. Look at Harry, he's smooth, cool as a cucumber. Or ever so slightly cooler than that, maybe. Well, that's the concreting all but finished. We've just got a bit of levelling to do. This will go off in a few days. It'll be rock hard in a week. And then up will come the timber off the top. There'll be a few coarser bricks, and then we'll be building the frames. Do excuse me, this is going to go off any second, so I must get back to work. See you in a while.